Low participation of youths in national development processes can be attributed to lack of knowledge of government systems, let alone their respective leaders. YETT organized dialogue on youth issues with members of Parliament and youth on the 10th of February 2016. The platform also exposed more than 100 young people from around Zimbabwe to the functions of Parliament and afforded an opportunity for them to attend an open parliamentary question and answer session at National Assembly. Through dialogue meetings and training, YETT works to build the capacity of youth and youth development stakeholders to be responsive to the needs of the young people. These stakeholders include government ministries, media practitioners, community leaders, traditional leaders, councillors, and members of Parliament.
In coming up with this activity, which we dubbed the Youth Dialogue with Policymakers, our objective was primarily, number one, to demystify Parliament, to make young people realize that parliamentarians or policymakers are human like them, and they can also approach them with issues of concern to them.
Today has been my first time to be in Parliament. We've been having a tour to Parliament. At first, before we even got there, I was thinking this is going to be another theatres exercise, a lot of vetting and things like that, because Parliament is viewed as a sacred place, especially for most of us in Bulawayo. But to my surprise, it was just simple to just fill in the attendance register, and then we are in. We received a warm welcome by those working in Parliament, and we were taken through the judiciary system, the executive, and the role of Parliament. We discovered that this country has a passion for the youth, and the members who work in Parliament, they cogitize the youth to take part in the forthcoming elections and fight for their representation in Parliament.
Let's be proud of who we are. So that's patriotism. That's what we want. First and foremost, we may be going to South Africa for our jobs. We may be going to Britain. We may be going to America. But first and foremost, we are Zimbabweans, and we should be proud of being Zimbabweans. You take part in the law-making process like Bamato Integration. You have come to learn about the law-making process of your country, and therefore, please be part of the law-making process. And how do you do that? Chakutanga, lingezwa kuthiwa iparliament ile outreach eyenzayo ifuna ukuyahlangana labantu endaweni ethize, noma kuthiwa bahlangana labalimi, noma kuthiwa bahlangana lamakhorokoza, nani bathiwa uyafakela nyaya zewuthando zemali. As long as you are a Zimbabwean youth, go and be part of that outreach program. How do I show it? Hold meetings with your representatives. Hiyo zinto zote kukuvunza hizo kuti tinyatisa zvangu. But you can't say, what do you can come no guarantee, but we more than can't when you behind, empty when you behind, and then I'm going one grade. I will leave it at that. But I'm saying, show interest by knowing all those things because they make you who you are. Part in the election process, whether it's local government or national, please take part, go and register. Take part, because whatever is happening in the country, you should be part of it.
It was really a very, very important exposure to be in a position to interact with policymakers, an opportunity that most of young people rarely get, but YETT provided us with that opportunity, and we managed to have a conversation with them and try to see things the way that they are really. Usually when we read news in the newspapers, newspapers have got their own interests that might be far away from the truth. But basically when we got the opportunity to talk with the policymakers, we managed, personally I managed to see how real things are done during and before, during and after the sessions. So I got to appreciate the role that policymakers have, and also the challenges that they are facing, and also the role that I can play as a young person, and also how I can approach them in trying to make sure that issues that affect young people are addressed.
I had a very fruitful engagement with young people who are from Chitungeza mainly, and I was encouraged by their interest in political issues and in youth issues. Again, we need to send information out. We need to get more people and encourage young people to read, follow parliamentary proceedings, to actually find out what's going on, what we are debating about and how it's working, so that they can also take advantage of opportunities that come out from the interface in Parliament.
We also wanted to provide a platform where young people can express their opinions or react to the 2016 national budget, in as much as it affects young people's livelihoods. And we also wanted to provide an opportunity for young people to respond to recent policies which have been passed by government, which include, for example, Statutory Instrument 148 of 2015, which spoke to the removal of rebate for travelers traveling using public transport.
The issue of young people trying to fend themselves right now, seeing as the formal sector is difficult to penetrate to get jobs. Right now, the biggest predicament that young people are facing is joblessness, and people want to be employed so that they can sustain themselves. But now we realize that it's so difficult for young people to penetrate the formal job sector because there are no jobs and the opportunities are shrinking by the day. So I noticed that now that young people see that predicament, they are now striving to sustain themselves through penetrating the informal sector. Informal sector in terms of kutengesa, being vendors, and trading just in general to try and sustain themselves. So then one thing that really touched me was the fact that in a bid to try to survive through the informal sector, young people are now being subjected to kutataniswa nevanhu city council, having their ways stolen or taken away from them, and it becomes even more difficult. How are we expected to survive when it is like that? The expectations that young people have where the budget is concerned, like I said, joblessness. That's the main issue that young people felt they wanted to be addressed by the national budget, but there's just a vague allocation of about 2.7% towards the youth, and we don't understand how that's going to be dispersed in developing young people and helping them to sustain themselves.
As you know, the country has been going through very difficult times, and in relation to my constituency, it really covers one of those areas which have not been well developed. My constituency comprises of the 5 wards in Sakuba, as well as Ward 10, which is the industrial area. And in regard to specific issues of development which can be level, it has been very difficult. Actually, Mtari has been going through a lot of challenging times. We find that most of the companies which will operate in Mtari, Karina Textiles, Mtari Board and Paper Mills, they've actually closed down. And as such, to actually come up with specific development projects or development issues which can be beneficial to the youth has been very difficult.
In Makonde constituency, I'm including the other very urban areas. We have got land. That area is an agricultural area. So the first important thing is to assist the youth to have access to land. And the other issue is we have got a viable vocational training center. What I have noted in my constituency is that people are taught skills are welding, motor make, and these are they are sort of engineers, operative technicians, whatever. So that way, that's a practical way of dealing with the situation in our case. So those two opportunities, I'm sure I will take the youth a long way.
I think key learnings we have noticed as yet is that there is need for us to invest more in knowledge and information dissemination among us young people with regard to the roles and functions of parliament and parliamentarians, because some of the input which was being made by young people made us realize that some of them were not aware of these. Secondly, we have also noticed that the reality of the matter is we are living in a country where we are facing economic challenges, and some of these MPs, they are unable to deliver and meet some of the expectations which young people have of them due to the fact that they are not being adequately capacitated in terms of resources by Parliament. So we also realize that there's need for youth development initiatives like the ones we're having today to also tap into other means of engaging policymakers using, for example, social media and other platforms, whereby we can be able to use less resources or limited resources but achieve high impact.
During a networking session between the youth and their parliamentarians, dialogue was opened. Among pertinent issues discussed were the challenges faced, progress rendered, and current work on the ground.
Firstly, from our group, we had a brief introduction from Honorable, as he said, about the duties of the members of Parliament, what they're supposed to do, and everything. And after that, people started asking questions ranging from what is being done in the Parliament, is there a monitoring and evaluation system that is in place?
From our group, I think we had very stimulating discussions. We started by me giving an outline of the role of the Member of Parliament. To start with that, we've got the legislative function, where we have to pass laws in Parliament. We've got the oversight role, where we scrutinize and shadow various portfolio committees. And also from the Senate, we've got thematic committees which deal with specific themes, like we have one on human rights, one on HIV and AIDS, and so on and so forth. And I also indicated to the people in the group the challenges that we face as Parliament. Because in an ideal situation, we members of Parliament are supposed to have constituency offices, and we are supposed to have office assistants, and we actually used to have that before the 8th Parliament. But at the present time, because of the challenges, because of financial constraints, we do not have that.
We discussed mostly on how to change the mindset of the community. Our Honorable MP was saying sometimes he comes to the community to give a feedback, but most people will not attend the meetings because they are of the other party. So he was asking the youth, how should we do, or what can we do to change the mindset of the people? How best can people actively participate in programs that happen in the community? And also when there are disbursements of funds, how best can he come to the society? And also, how can we avoid diversion of funds, misuse of funds, and how can there be a transparency in whatever we do?
Mungava pa any level ye government munofana kuwanikwa mune wechidiki arimo. Ndambozovapa example yekutoti toto akutora cabinet of Zimbabwe mukatarisa muna kana wechidiki anosita mucabinet. Saka iro bumbiro asiri kuti tinofana kunge mune vechidiki varimo. Saka kuti zvoitwa sei kuti muzova newechidiki anosita mucabinet? Ndikati it's now up to you vechidiki kuti mogara pasi morongana mototanga imimi instead kuti muti ndimi muchivhotera vanhu rongai zoti muvhoterwe kuti muzotora those position kuitira kuti zvipo zvenyu zvamuchida zviwanikwe kuti mukamirirwa kuitirwa ndivo vanoti hanzi what you do for me without me you are doing against me. Saka kana mukangodaro manje mukazozvitatisa izvozvo zvinonetsa.
Mukurumani Parliament has agreed that on Saturday we are going to have a platform for the youth, and the is going to organize more youth to be there.
Cover that youth are part of the vulnerable groups in the sense that they are from school and they are not employed, and there is no employment. So they qualify in the vulnerable groups. So we discussed how, because of the economic hardships owing to the in the country, now we experience our economic decay in the country. So we felt there's a need to empower our skills through vocational training centers and other institutions like this one.
The first issue that we touched was the fact that she mentioned that you cannot say that politics and development do not go hand in glove, because they do. So as young people, we can't separate ourselves and say Truda advocate for just development chete without any involvement in politics, because they are inseparable. So issues of development address and all, but the only channel, if anything, we can use is to also get involved in politics and to get our voices heard if any way.
While the Member of Parliament is doing what they can do to reach out and to give feedback and to hear issues from you, you must also reach out to the Member of Parliament. Let's be also that society that looks for the Member of Parliament. You know, you can write letters and give them here at Parliament from the, you know, they can put them in our pigeonholes. Some of us have Facebook accounts because those are the offices that we open because we have no one that talk to us. And also the Hansard, I'm encouraging them to follow proceedings in Parliament, because those things that you see on Wednesdays when we ask questions, they're not the only things we do. That's the little of the start. We debate all sorts of issues, and we don't debate factional politics. What you are seeing in the media is maybe like 1% of what we actually discuss in Parliament.